crowd is now moving forward toward the barrier. They're moving forward with their hands in the air, holding flags or both hands in the air. It's a mixture.
On a bridge in Bunkerville, holding high-power scoped rifles, these men took cover, prepared to shoot, prepared to die.
Here to protect our freedom.
New fallout from the showdown in the West. Why Judge Napolitano says this administration's appetite for intimidation against the American people is something like we've never seen.
Government just keep taking more and more federal government. Today, that's for the free men of America.
I'm not afraid to take a stand, take a stand. Everybody, come take my hand, We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm. Just letting you know that you're not alone. Holler if you feel like you've been down the same road.
Developing tonight, Fox News obtaining new video of the mess left behind after the standoff between federal agents and protesters at the Bundy Cattle Ranch in Nevada. William Lajeunesse is just back from the ranch. William?
Well, the root of the dispute, of course, is the desert tortoise. A federal court gave the BLM authority to seize and impound Bundy's cattle to protect the tortoise. But the order did not say the agency could, as this video shows, destroy his water tanks, water lines, and fences. Bundy also blames the BLM for allegedly killing 2 prize bulls.
If you notice, I'm inside this pen where that bull was shot, and if you look along the inside of this pen, there's nothing where this pen has been bent. If you look on the ground, the post is still in the same spot. It hasn't even moved. It's not like the bull was smashing this pen and trying to attack the people or anything. The pen is sitting here, hasn't moved. No damage whatsoever. Where was the danger in that bull?
BLM wranglers allegedly shot the bulls because they were dangerous and could gore their horses. Bundy's friends say that the white bull was shot 5 times.
Nowhere in the court order that I saw does it say that they can destroy infrastructure, destroy corrals, tanks, desert environment, shoot cattle.
Duke Energy and China's ENN Group have teamed up to create an eco-partnership with the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Chinese city of Langfang in Hebei Province. Duke Energy and ENN's initial eco-partnership projects will involve testing of solar power generation, substation and community battery storage capabilities, grid management optimization, and other energy efficiency initiatives. With Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in attendance, the signing took place at the U.S. State Department yesterday. Secretary Clinton was very pleased that the eco-partnership was coming to fruition.
All of these collaborations have the potential to help us solve some of our most profound environmental challenges and at the same time create new jobs in both of our countries.
Why has the most powerful man in the United States Senate, however, Majority Leader Harry Reid and his son Rory, who failed in a bid for the Nevada governorship, involved themselves in this effort to crush one individual citizen? There are reports tonight that Chinese energy giant ENN Energy Group is actively targeting the land in question for a solar plant project with Roy Reid's help. And the principal director of the Bureau of Federal Land Management, the bureaucracy at the center of this conflict, is Harry Reid's former senior policy advisor.
The new BLM director is a former policy advisor to Senator Harry Reid. And Reid endorsed the judge who originally ruled against Bundy for a seat on the U.S. Supreme Court, while Reid's son Rory is a lobbyist for a Chinese energy giant, ENN, which proposed building a $5 million solar plant in Clark County.
Our first guest tonight says rancher Cliven Bundy's problem isn't that he didn't pay user fees or fines. It has nothing to do with whether his cattle were bothering tortoises. It's simply that he's not a Harry Reid donor. Joining us tonight, Dana Loesch, conservative radio talk show host, anchor of The Dana Show on the Blaze TV network. Dana, good to have you with us. You've been following
Thanks for
this.
having me, Lou.
You've been following this story. I mean, these relationships amongst Senator Reid, his son Rory, the federal government, even Governor Sandoval has been to China to glad hand with the ENN Group's executives. What is going on here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it, Lou? If there wasn't this sort of incestuous relationship between all of these donors and these individuals that had worked with Senator Reid, I think it would be fair to say that there's probably nothing going on here. But unfortunately, there's precedence which states otherwise. We know for a fact that there are a number of projects of Harry Reid donors that have received the golden stamp of approval from the Bureau of Land Management in this same particular area. One of those, and I gave example of that on air, was Harvey Whitmore, and this guy was convicted of illegal campaign contributions by the tens of thousands of dollars to Harry Reid. He had a development that was in this same area. The tortoise, that desert tortoise, was in the way, and very conveniently, Senator Harry Reid, after he reportedly approached the senator, the Bureau of Land Management just very conveniently moved the boundary lines of the tortoise habitat to better accommodate Harvey Whitmore, who again was convicted of illegal campaign contributions to Senator Harry Reid. So there, you have to ask the question. The law is the law, and I think we all agree on that, but it needs to be consistently applied, because what is the law if it is inconsistently applied? And what is the law as well if this is a law that is sort of based upon a bastardization of what constitutional law and what state law is dictating regarding private property? And so these are all questions that are finally coming up, because it's not just Nevada, Lou. There's this situation that's unfolding in New Mexico. We have a situation about private property in Colorado. We're seeing the same thing in Utah. Right. It really is kind of the battle of the West.
Well, new reaction tonight to the Bundy Ranch showdown, as critics suggest the federal response in Nevada was a case of overkill. And they say this is part of a larger pattern.
They can throw an army of men around there, literally, with sniper rifles, on guys just like you are, on people just like you are. Someday, they're going to throw that army of men around you.
Today is the greatest day in my lifetime. I've lived 65 years. Government just keep taking more and more federal government. Today, that's for the free men of America right there, for them soldiers that died and fought for it.
This right here is the best thing I've seen, the people taking their country back.
Judge Andrew Napolitano is Fox News' senior judicial analyst, and with me now, taking the country back. And we've heard so much about how the Bundys did not have the law on their side. They were trying to stand up for a principle. But more and more in the days after this, Judge, people are talking about how it got that far. And if you look deep into this ranching dispute, what the ranchers will tell you is this was the straw that broke the camel's back, that they feel this has been a culture of intimidation. And in fact, there was a piece in the Washington Times just today that used that term, culture of intimidation, seen in this standoff. My question to you is that valid?
Well, the criticism is valid. It is a culture of intimidation. It's the federal government using grossly excessive force.
The land around the Bundy ranches seemed somewhat like a police state to people in this community.
Throwing women to the ground, tasing them, sicking canine dogs on them.
That's caught the attention of private militia across the country who feel First Amendment rights are being violated.
That's what we do. We provide armed response.
Jim Lordy came from Montana to join the protesters, and he says he's not afraid to shoot if necessary.
Why the gun? Well, they have guns. We need guns to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government.
And he says other militia members are joining him.
There's many more coming.
Bundy delivered an ultimatum to Clark County Sheriff Doug Gillespie to arrest federal officers. His demands and ultimatums appear to grow by the day, backed up by some high-powered rifles. On a bridge in Bunkerville, holding high-powered scoped rifles, these men took cover, prepared to shoot, prepared to die.
Here to protect our freedom. Had to happen sometime, might as well happen now, right?
This Saturday, he took position with other gunmen, taking the high ground as federal agents waited in the wash below. Between them, men Women and their children marched toward a fence.
They're getting ready to launch stuff at us. Get ready.
On the other side of the fence, Bureau of Land Management agents, also armed, also took cover.
My name's Eric. We came down from Idaho.
Are you part of one of the militia groups?
No, just independent.
Just independent down here? From
Just a county civil defense unit.
Okay. What does this mean? What does this victory for the Bundys mean, do you think?
I think it means a lot, but it needs to keep happening. We need to keep matching show of force. There's a rancher in Texas right now under threat from the BLM. 90,000 acres on the Red River they're trying to take from him right now. You know, if you're in Texas, go there. Get on a bridge. Show them force.
The Oklahoma militia say they have members in Nevada who say Bundy's cattle were unlawfully rounded up by the BLM.
Evidently, here in America, you don't actually own the property anymore, if you ever did.
The roundup sparked an armed standoff, but it wasn't the Bundy family who owns the cattle. It was militia members from across the nation going up against the BLM. Here in Oklahoma, militia members say they have nearly 50,000 volunteers. Members say they are taking Bundy's side and fear this governmental practice could spread to the Sooner State. Scott Shaw says with all of the recent constitutional infringements by the federal government, the Oklahoma Volunteer Militia is ready to take up arms if needed.
It's up to the feds. The ball's in their court. You know, it depends. You can do this legally, or if you want to try to do a land grab violently, you can do that. We're going to resist you.
Shaw says they haven't had to defend Oklahoma from the feds yet, but says it's beginning to become a concern.
Just look around the country. They're doing it everywhere. If they can do it in Nevada, they can do it in Colorado, they can do it in Texas. I mean, what's to stop them from coming to Oklahoma? The only thing to stop them is we the people.
Have been telling everybody they're going to shoot if you don't move back. People are moving forward with their hands in the air, holding flags with both hands in the air. A mixture of people on foot, as you can see, people on foot and cowboys.
Well,
Today's Constitution Day, and a few years ago I wrote an essay about Constitution Day, and I asked a question, is this a day of mourning or a day of celebration for their constitutions and a relentless assault? And one other writer online actually said the Constitution's dead. It's been shot in the face by a shotgun. It's DRT, dead right there. And he's got a point. This government is wildly outside of the Constitution, and so is every level of government, all the way down to your local town council. Mr. DeWeese has already pointed out, and others across the country have pointed out before, they're all outside the bounds. But when asked that question, I say no. The Constitution still lives because it still lives inside of our hearts. And all of those of us who have sworn the oath to support and defend the Constitution, whether in military service like I did, or whether the sheriffs, like the good sheriffs who are here today, or chiefs of police, we all took an oath to support and defend. And as long as we still draw breath, the Republic still lives inside of us. So that's my answer to that. But we do need to understand reality and face the reality that we are in an uphill fight, and it is so wildly outside the bounds that at any time we could have another Lexington Green. It could happen any day. And in the aftermath of Bundy Ranch, I read some analysis by so-called intelligence centers in the counterterrorism intelligence centers in Nevada was one of them, and other places across the country that apparently don't get it. Here's why you had veterans from all over the country jumping in their trucks as individuals, not just Oath Keepers and other groups. We were there too. But there were plenty of guys who all on their own just look and saw what's going on and grabbed their rifle, grabbed their go bag, and jumped in their truck. And why? They told us why when we were there. It was the presence of military snipers, trained Special Forces snipers that they knew were on the other side, pointing their sniper rifles at a ranching family. That was the #1 reason why they rolled out. It was because our government was treating that ranching family with less respect than they would treat someone in Iraq or Afghanistan, where they're still trying to win the hearts and minds. The attitude of the government in this case was, we don't care about winning your hearts and minds, we're going to show you who's boss. Here comes the boot on the back of your neck, and it's wearing a Special Forces foot inside that boot. That's why. And on our side, and here's the message I have for the federal law enforcement that were there, you need to understand how close you were. It was not going to be a Waco where it's going to be you, well-trained professionals, against untrained men, women, children in a church. It was going to be you against other well-trained American fighters. There was one MARSOC Marine who was there who rolled up. No one even knew he was going to show up. He shows up. He just got out of the Marine Corps. 300 kills in Afghanistan behind a .338 Lapua sniper rifle. And he ran into a young Marine who'd driven down by himself from Oregon who happened to have a .338 Lapua. The MARSOC Marine couldn't afford to own a privately owned .338 Lapua sniper rifle. But when the other Marine veteran found out who this guy was, he said, "This is yours. You take it. Give me your M4. They swapped rifles. So now you had a MARSOC Marine who knew what he was doing on the other side of the scope, looking at those Special Forces veteran snipers. It was going to be sheepdog on sheepdog bloodbath that day. And the why? Because those other oath takers had forgotten their oath. And they had agreed to take the money and go serve as the muscle to treat their own people like an occupied enemy nation. And it's a mirror image. You're going to get what you give. We're going to give you back what you give us. If you deploy the military against us, you will see on the other side guys just like you looking right back at you. Hear, hear. And it's the same deal up in New York with the SAFE Act. Same message there to the police of New York. It's like, look guys, it's not the responsibility of the people to bend the knee and submit to an unconstitutional edict from Governor Cuomo and the legislature. You can't tell them, all these oath-sworn veterans, many of whom left brothers on the battlefield, you cannot tell them that in order to avoid violence here at home, you must submit. Bend the knee to the king. Bend the knee and bend your children's knees too. It's not their responsibility to avoid violence, to avoid sheepdog on sheepdog in New York. the responsibility is on the police, the sheriffs, and the deputies of New York to do what's right and refuse to obey those unlawful orders. That is the responsibility. That's the check. That's the safety valve. It's not in submission. It's in devotion and duty of you, the men who are going to be called to act against us, to do what's right and refuse. As long as you refuse, they can't do it without you. You know that. So I had the privilege of riding over here in a car with Sheriff Carpinelli and his wife and kids. Also here is Denny Pyman, an awesome sheriff from Kentucky, who came to Bundy Ranch with us. And that's another good point, as Mr. Pratt was saying earlier. You had Brad Rogers there. He came on our behalf. You had Sheriff Pyman from Kentucky. We also had Jeff Christopher from Delaware show up also. So if we're a bunch of radical, anti-government, crazy cop killers, why were there police officers standing right there with us? Because we're all in this together. It doesn't matter whether you're a cop or you're a soldier or what your status is. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and it's what we will always defend together. If we defend it together, we can avoid bloodshed here at home. But if we allow our police to militarize and turn into an occupying army, or we allow our military to be used here at home domestically against the people, there will be another fight. And there should be. The founders would roll over in their graves to look at us and think, you're going to submit without a fight? Of course there'll be a fight, just as there was a fight in their day. Just as there was a fight on Iwo Jima and Normandy. We will fight if we have to. But if you do what's right, if you understand your oath, and if you simply respect and obey the Constitution, we don't have to go there. But don't fool yourselves. Don't listen to Southern Poverty Law Center and other nonsense that, oh, we can't tell why they went down there. There's all kinds of crazy crackpot theories. No. It was snipers. It was militarized contractors looking like they just came out of Afghanistan or Iraq. And it was the violation, plain violation of the First Amendment, the big reason why guys showed up. Those ridiculous First Amendment areas where they're told you can have free speech inside this box. Of course, everyone ignored them. All the cowboys there, to their credit, ignored that nonsense. They said, we're not going to comply with that. But that ticked off a lot of veterans. Because they said, what am I fighting for? What did I go and fight for? And one more message for the feds out there. I want you to take a good hard look at who showed up. I want you to think about, number one, how many Marines showed up. And I was Army Airborne, and I'm very proud of that, but I'll tell you what, you got to give credit where credit's due. The Marines showed up en masse. There were more than any other veteran group out there. It was Marine Corps at Bundy Ranch. And don't think, you feds out there, don't think that the guys who just got out are much different than the guys who are still in. They're of the same mindset. And this is the politicians and your would-be dictators in Washington, D.C., this is what they're worried about, and they should be worried about it. They have to worry that if they go too hard, they drop the hammer too blatantly on Americans like at Bundy Ranch, that the Marine Corps will flip on them, and I think it would. And same goes for the close to the tip of the spear in the Army, Army Airborne, your Special Forces, your Navy SEALs, all those groups out there. The more hardcore they are as warriors, the more likely they are to look at something like that and say, that's it, I'm done, and join the resistance. And so that's why they are careful about what they do. It's not out of charity or concern for your lives that they don't drop the hammer. As we found out later on, they were actually considering a military strike at Bundy Ranch. Can you believe that? Washington Times reported it. They were considering using military force at Bundy Ranch. Thankfully, they did not. Because if they had, that would have kicked off a civil war in this country. It would have. We don't want that. But the way to avoid it, once again, is for those who are in the positions of enforcement, whether federal, state, whether they are in the military, they must refuse to be the muscle for idiots like Cuomo or Obama or Holder who don't understand warfare. Do not open the door on U.S. soil to sheepdog on sheepdog violence. Don't do it. Thank you.
mixture.
On a bridge in Bunkerville, holding high-power scoped rifles, these men took cover, prepared to shoot, prepared to die.
Here to protect our freedom.
New fallout from the showdown in the West. Why Judge Napolitano says this administration's appetite for intimidation against the American people is something like we've never seen.
Government just keep taking more and more federal government. Today, that's for the free men of America.
I'm not afraid.
Get back! Please, get back! Get back now!
We're not leaving. You're gonna have to arrest us all or shoot us all.
The crowd is now moving forward toward the barrier. They're moving forward with their hands in the air, holding flags with both hands in the air.
Killing 2 prize bulls.
If you notice, I'm inside this pen where that bull was shot. And if you look along the inside of this pen, there's nothing where this pen has been bent. If you look on the ground, the post is still in the same spot. It hasn't even moved. It's not like the bull was smashing this pen and trying to attack the people or anything. The pen is sitting here, hasn't moved, no damage whatsoever. Where was the danger in that bull?
BLM wranglers allegedly shot the bulls because they were dangerous and could gore their horses.
Take a stand, take a stand. Everybody, come take my hand, come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm. Just letting you know that you're not alone. Holler if you feel like you've been down the same road.
Developing tonight, Fox News obtaining new video of the mess left behind after the standoff between federal agents and protesters at the Bundy Cattle Ranch in Nevada. William Lajeunesse is just back from the ranch. William?
Well, the root of the dispute, of course, is the desert tortoise. A federal court gave the BLM authority to seize and impound Bundy's cattle to protect the tortoise. But the order did not say the agency could, as this video shows, destroy his water tanks, water lines, and fences. Bundy also blames the BLM for allegedly